The question's going to go to you, Captain Manning. You are the expert here, in my view.
Thank you.
I'm wound up like a clock here over drones zapping around because
Corp.
I'm led to believe, because we've had your report and we've gone through it and we've heard from ATSB, that these remotely piloted aircraft systems do pose a transport safety risk. This is the ATSB. You go on to say that, you go on to say here that the ATSB concluded that close monitoring of drone-related safety occurrences is required because of the growth and the popularity of these. Why are they a risk to aircraft?
Anything in the air is a risk to an aircraft, whether it's a bird, an animal, or an RPAS.
Captain Manning, previously, I don't know if you heard in the other room the evidence coming from CASA. I'm not going to put words in CASA's mouth, but I took that CASA sort of brushed it off as, well, you know, one bird strike. If there's a lot of birds, then we got a problem. Am I on the wrong plane here? And I don't mean aeroplane, I mean on the wrong tangent. Am I missing something?
I've got several hats here. If I put my ATSB hat on, it is, you know, we're, say, the canary in the mine. We tell people. If I put my ex-pilot hat on, you're right. There is an issue. Now, how it's addressed is extremely difficult. And I think, as CASA said, this isn't easy. It's got away from regulators around the world.
Yep.
We're regulating in reverse. I don't know the answer,
okay.
but it is an issue.
I'm not going to put you on the wrong plane here. I won't do that to you. So I'll come back to you, Mr. Hood. Okay. So could you tell us, ATSB tell us, these 2 kilogram or less drones that can be purchased from JB Hi-Fi or wherever it may be, Dick Smith, would you support the committee's concerns about some form of licensing? Now, if you can't comment, I'm quite comfortable. So at least, because you see, you're the one that gets the written report about drones having interactions with planes, and in all fairness to ATSB, you've got no idea who owns them. Is there any other practices that you think would help your work and possibly CASA's work in terms of some form of identification, maybe some training? Now, if you're uncomfortable, you don't have to answer.
No, so no, I'm very comfortable, thank you.
Good.
So I might just take a few things out of that. One, I did review your nephew's report out of Rockingham when we discussed it the October.
Oh, good. I haven't spoken to him since.
Well, it's very interesting because it's one of the challenges it faces, what we call encounters with drones, because a pilot will see it for a fleeting moment going down the left or the right-hand side or up or below, and then lose sight of it. So in terms of registration markings, etc. on drones, then that's not necessarily going to deliver a good result. I will throw to Dr. Godley in a moment, but a couple of things I'd like to reiterate if I can, Senator. Our publicly released report on aviation safety analysis of remotely piloted aerial systems on 16th of March 2017 does have a safety message which says the operation of remotely piloted aircraft is an emerging risk to transport safety that requires close monitoring as the popularity of these aircraft continues to rapidly grow. So we flagged that publicly, we flagged that to the Senate committee, and we also flagged that to the regulator. Our analysis shows that in the 5 years, 2012 to 2016, there were 180 occurrences. 108 of these were near encounters, and what we defined as a near encounter is where the aircraft had to manoeuvre to avoid the drone. So there are a number more than that, which Dr. Godley will talk about, but they were considerably further away from the aircraft. The majority of these are above 1,000 feet, and a third of those reported encounters were in the Sydney Basin. We also had 52 collisions with the terrain. That's RPAS have lost control and collided and crashed. And I think, as Senator O'Sullivan pointed out earlier, our prediction is that the reported occurrences involving drones in 2017 will double those in the numbers reported in 2016. So I might ask Dr. Godley, whose team was the author of the reports, to elaborate on your question.
Yeah, if you could. Thanks, Mr. Hood.
Thank you. Stuart Godley, Assistant General Manager of Strategic Capability. So one of the issues that we found, actually I'll just elaborate a bit on what Mr. Hood said about what a near encounter was. So we defined it as where the aircraft had to manoeuvre or would have manoeuvred if there was an opportunity to maintain a safe distance from the RPA. So what's not included were the sightings from several miles away. So we had a number of those that we don't call as incidents because they were never going to collide with the aircraft. There was never a breakdown. There was never a separation issue between the two aircraft. And we don't necessarily collect that data. It doesn't necessarily get reported to us. So it's only the ones where they're fairly close. But what we did find with that research is, of course, we couldn't identify any of those 108 RPAs that were involved because, well, one, they don't require markings, but even if they did require markings, we still wouldn't know who they were. So the only way we would be able to identify them is if they had a transponder type marking. But obviously that includes weight and whether it's even feasible to put something as heavy as a transponder on an RPA so that authorities could identify them is another matter for someone else, not me.
Right.
So that I think I was just trying to answer your original question. Yeah,
you are helping me out because it's not as simple as putting a licence plate on it. But there, and I'll ask ATSB this. There's obviously technologies that you can limit the height that these drones can go to. There's all sorts of, we believe, geofencing. There's a number of issues that can be addressed. Is that correct? Is that your area of expertise, Doctor?
It's not really.
Okay.
I'm sure there is, and then you would need active policing of that as well. In the same sense that there's laws against lasers, but we still get them imported into Australia, and they still get shone at aircraft.
I suppose what I'll do in all fairness, Chair, to the rest of the committee, there are a number of things we can look at. My frustration, the committee's frustration, is no one's looking at anything. Well, they're looking, but no one's doing anything. Anyway, I'll
so I think, the Senator, just to reinforce it, that we're looking
you're doing
very
your
carefully.
best. No, hang on, I'll rephrase that.
Yep.
You're doing your best. You're the one that's got to clean up the mess after.
Yep.
Nothing nice about your job. Others aren't doing anything about it. And I'm not mentioning CASA. Oh, yeah, what the hell. CASA are doing stuff all...
Could be next.